In this video, I'll be going through this paper 1 of the iGCSE chemistry paper. Okay, so this is 0971/12. Okay, so let's go through this MCQ question. So in this question, we are told that substances change state when their temperature are changed. So which changes of state takes place when the temperature of a substance is lowered? So let's take a look at some of the phase change. So we have solid, liquid, and gases. So generally, the higher the temperature, it goes from solid to liquid and then to gases, right? Higher temperature, lower temperature. So if you want the temperature to be lower, it could be either from gas to liquid, or from liquid to solid, or from gas to solid. Okay, so we have boiling, which is from liquid to gas, so it is not true because boiling you have an increase in temperature. Condensation is from gas to liquid, so yes, there's a decrease in temperature. Freezing is from liquid to solid, so yes, it's true. From melting is from solid to liquid, so it's not true. So the answer is 2 and 3. So the answer for 1 is C. Question 2. A student measures the time taken for 2 grams of magnesium to dissolve in 50 cm³ of sulfuric acid. Okay, and we need to find the time. So what apparatus is essential to complete the experiment? So because we want to find the time, we need the stop clock. We need to measure 2 grams of magnesium, which is mass, so we use a balance. We need to measure 50 cm³ of sulfuric acid, so we need to measure 50 cm³, which is volume, so we use a measuring cylinder. So we need 1, 2, and 4. We do not need a thermometer because we are not interested in the temperature. So 1, 2, and 4, so the answer is A. Moving on to question 3, which method is used to separate a mixture of the following liquids? So if you take a look at all the liquids, what do they have? They have different boiling points. So they're all alcohols, right? So if you want to separate liquids with different boiling points, you use fractional distillation if they are miscible. So the answer is D. Next, we have question 4. X and Y are 2 different elements. X and Y have the same number of nucleons. Okay, so in other words, the protons plus neutrons are the same. Okay, but they are 2 different elements. 2 different elements, that means they have different number of protons. Okay, so they have different number of protons, okay, but they have the same number of protons and neutrons. So which one is true? So they have the same physical property. Okay, no, not necessary. The atoms have the same number of electrons? No, because you have different number of protons, you have different number of electrons, okay, for the atoms. They are in different groups of the periodic table. Likely, yeah, okay, so yes, they are. So if you have the same number of protons and neutrons, okay, same number of protons and neutrons, okay, but you're not the same element, right? So to have the same number of proton elements and neutrons, you probably will be in a different group. Okay, they have different relative masses. No, they have the same relative mass because relative mass is equal to proton plus neutrons. So the answer for 4 is C. Question 5, which role identify an alloy, a pure metal, and a non-metal? So an alloy is a mixture of metals. So brass, bronze, they are alloys, so A and B. Pure metal, carbon is not a metal, copper is a metal. Okay, carbon is a non-metal, so the answer is B. Question 6, which statement about ions and ionic bondings is correct? Calcium atoms gain electrons to form calcium ions. Wrong. Calcium belongs to group 1. Okay, group 1, they lose electrons to become positively charged. Okay, they lose 1 electrons per atom to become positively charged. So A is wrong. Ionic bonding involves sharing of pairs of electrons. No. Covalent bonding then involves sharing of pairs of electrons. Ionic bonding involves the transfer of electrons from usually a metal to a non-metal. Potassium ions and chloride ions have the same number of outer shell electrons. So if you look at potassium, potassium has atom. So if you refer to the periodic table, potassium atom, okay, will have 18 electrons. Okay, because the proton number is 8. Okay, is it 18? 2, 8, 8, 2. Chlorine is 17. Potassium, I think, is 19. Is it? Yeah, 19. Okay, so potassium will be 2, 8. Two, 8, 8, 1. 2, 8, 8, 1. Yeah, so it's 19. So potassium ion, it has a proton number of 19. Chloride has a proton number of 17. So when they are atoms, chlorine is 287. But chlorine will gain 1 electron to become 288. Potassium will lose 1 electron to become 288 as well. So at the end of the day, they'll have the same number of outer shell electrons, which is 8. Okay, so ions usually have stable octet configuration unless you're in period 1 where you will have stable duplet configuration. So the answer for 6 is C. Sodium has an equal number of protons and electrons. Not true. Okay, because it's an ion. So for ions, they do not have the same number of protons or electrons. That's why they are charged. Question 7. Which dot and cross diagram shows the arrangement of outer shell electrons in the molecule of hydrogen chloride? So hydrogen has 1 electron. It will share with chlorine. So this is wrong because H only has 1 electron. So it's either A or C. But C, chlorine has 7 valence electrons. So you will have 6 outside and 1 of it is being shared. So the answer is A. Question 8. Which statement explains why graphite can be used as a lubricant? So graphite can be used as a lubricant because it is slippery, because the layers of atoms in graphite can slide over each other. So the answer is D. Number 9. A compound of X has a formula X2O and a relative formula mass of 144. So what is it? So I know that X has a charge of +1. Okay. So or it must be something that forms X2O. So okay, so it can be a metal. If it's a metal, it would be a charge of +1. If it's a non-metal, then the charge need not be +1. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. So now we know that the relative formula mass is 144 and oxygen has a relative formula mass of 16. So I know that so oxygen is 16. AR of oxygen is equals to 16. So AR of X will be equals to 144 minus 16 divided by 2, which will be equals to 76. Okay, so now I'm going to the periodic table to look for something which has an AR of 76, which is copper. Okay, so the answer is A. So it's possible to have copper 1, so therefore A is a possible answer. Question 10. The diagram shows the electrolysis of concentrated hydrochloric acid and concentrated sodium chloride using carbon electrode. So in which electrode is hydrogen produced? So hydrogen will come from H+, right? Hydrogen comes from H+. So positively charged ions will be attracted to the negatively charged electrode. So it's either electrode 2 and 4. So the only possibility is 2 or 4. Okay, so anything with 1 and 3 is out already. So we only need to check C and D. Okay, next we have concentrated hydrochloric acid. So concentrated hydrochloric acid, I have H+, Cl-, as well as I have water. So water will also contribute OH- as well as H+. So you only have 1 positively charged ions here, which is H+. H+ discharged to form H2. So electrode 2 will have hydrogen. Let's look at this setup here. So I have concentrated aqueous sodium chloride. So sodium chloride will give me Na+ and Cl-. Aqueous, which is water, will give me H+ and OH-. H is below Na in the reactivity series, so hydrogen will be discharged preferentially. So in other words, at electrode 4, I'll have hydrogen. So in other words, 2 and 4 will give me hydrogen. So the answer is D. Question 11. What type of reaction occurs when calcium carbonate is heated at high temperature to produce calcium oxide and carbon dioxide? Well, this is basically a what type of reaction? So this is a decomposition reaction, right? Okay, and we can also call this reaction an endothermic reaction. Okay, it is not combustion because combustion you need to add oxygen. It is neither oxidation or reduction because all of the charge, calcium still remains as +2. Oxygen is still -2, is oxidation state. Carbon is still +4. So there's no change in oxidation state for anything here. So there's no oxidation, there's no reduction. But this reaction requires heat. You need to pump in heat in order to decompose calcium carbonate. So in other words, the only word that matches this is endothermic. So for 11, the answer is B, endothermic. 12, which role identifies chemical change and a physical change? So chemical change, you must have a change in the chemical composition. Okay, so and physical change, no change in the chemical composition, is just a physical change. So states, change in state, dissolving something are both a physical change. So let's take a look at physical change. Burning is wrong because you are going to convert ethanol into carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay, it's a chemical change, so burning is definitely not a physical change. Evaporation, yes, it's a physical change. So basically, ethanol still remains as CH3, CH2OH. The only difference when evaporate is you convert it from a liquid to a gas. Same thing for dissolution, you still have ethanol and water, but now instead of having them in separate containers, they are now mixed together. So this is also a physical change. Okay, next let's look at chemical change. So boiling is just a change of state. It's not a chemical change, it's a physical change. Burning is a chemical change. Okay, so the answer is B. Okay, dissolving is a physical change, just like evaporation. So the answer for 12 is B. Moving on to question 13, which statement about the rate of reaction is correct? So catalyst increases the time for the reaction to be completed. No, catalyst speed up the rate of the reaction. So the time taken will decrease. So A is wrong. Decreasing particle size increases rate of reaction. Yes, the smaller the particle size, the more the surface area it has in contact with other reacting particles. So you will have a higher frequency of collision between reacting particles. So reaction rate will increase. So B is correct. Decreasing temperature will not increase the rate, it will decrease the rate. So this is wrong. Rate of reaction decreases as concentration increases. No, in general, when concentration increases, rate of reaction increases. So the answer is B. Going on to question 14, some common household substances are tested with litmus and methyl orange. Okay, so now you have all these and they tell you the different colors. Okay, so for litmus, we know that when litmus is blue, it is alkaline. Okay, when it is red, it is acidic. If it's purple, it is neutral. Okay, for methyl orange, it is red when acidic. It is yellow when alkaline. And basically, it's orange when neutral. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. So I have, which one is correct? So they are calling about acidic. So lemonade, let's look at lemonade. Lemonade is red and rain, so lemonade is acidic. Bicarbonate of soda, no, it is alkaline. So this is wrong. Milk of magnesium, where is milk of magnesium? So we look at milk of magnesium. So it is blue and yellow. This one is alkaline. Okay, washing powder. Washing powder is also blue and yellow. So they are both alkaline. They cannot neutralize each other. So this is wrong. Next, milk of magnesium, which is alkaline. Washing powder, which is also alkaline. How about vinegar? Vinegar, red and red. So no, it is acidic. Okay, so milk of magnesium and washing powder are alkaline, they are bases, but vinegar is acidic, so this is wrong. Next, vinegar can neutralize bicarbonate of soda, so vinegar is acidic. Bicarbonate of soda, blue and yellow, this is alkaline, so acids and alkalis can neutralize each other, so yes, D is the correct answer. Moving on to question 15, water is added to anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. So anhydrous copper 2 sulfate is white. Once you add water to red, it will turn blue. So what happens during the reaction? So it will turn blue. So it's either A or B. Okay, and then this reaction itself is exothermic. So in other words, it gets hotter. So the answer is B. It turns blue and the solution gets hotter. Okay, now next, moving on to 16, in which reaction is carbon both oxidized and reduced? So if it's being oxidized as well as reduced, then it must undergo it must have a change in oxidation state. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You have carbon, you only have one carbon here. If one carbon dioxide, so it gains oxygen, is oxidized. So no, it is not both oxidized and reduced. Here you have carbon, here you have carbon. So carbon dioxide to form carbon monoxide, it loses oxygen, it is reduced. Carbon to carbon monoxide, it gains oxygen, so it is oxidized. So here you have both carbon being oxidized and reduced, so B is the correct answer. Let's move on to this. You have CO becomes CO2. It gains oxygen, so it's being oxidized. You do not have it becoming anything else, so therefore this is wrong. You have CO becomes CO2, so it's being oxidized, nothing else, so it's only oxidation, no reduction. So the answer for 16 is B. Moving on to 17, you have aqueous solution containing copper 2 ions, so Cu2 plus can be identified using flame test and by adding sodium hydroxide. So which row describe what is observed? So basically this is just memorization. So if you have a flame test, then you have a blue-green flame, so it's either A or B. Then when you add sodium hydroxide, you have a light blue precipitate, so the answer is A. Moving on to question 18, so you have oxides of two elements X and Y. They are separately dissolved in water and the pH of each solution is tested. So X has a pH of 1 when it dissolves in a solution, that means it's an acidic oxide. Y, when you dissolve in water, it has a high pH of 13, so it's an alkaline solution. So in other words, it's a basic oxide. So we know that Y is basic and X is acidic. Okay, these two are wrong. So acidic oxides are formed from non-metals. Basic oxides are usually formed from metal, so the answer is B. So 18 is B. Next, an acid is neutralized by adding an insoluble solid base. Okay, so you add acid to excess insoluble base, so you have excess of this insoluble base. So you form a soluble salt. So how do you obtain a pure salt solution? So well, you first need to filter out this insoluble base. Okay, so that you have a pure salt solution. Once you have a pure salt solution, you need to evaporate some of the water to get a saturated solution before you can crystallize to get out the crystal. So the answer is D. Going on to 20, some statements about gas G are listed. G is monoatomic, that means it belongs to group 0, the noble gas group, or group 8. Okay, it is found in clean dry air. Clean dry air. So which gas is found in clean dry air? It is argon. It's used in lamps. Yes, argon is also used in lamps. So the answer is definitely A. Okay. Next part of the periodic table is shown which element is a metal. So let's first draw in the stair. So we have a stair here that separates metals from the non-metals. And this one dangling here is hydrogen, and hydrogen is a non-metal. Okay, so which element is a metal? Basically the one that's here, which is C. So the answer is C. The elements sodium to argon from period 3 of the periodic table. So which row describes the trend across period 3 from left to right? So from left to right, you go from metal to non-metal. Okay, the number of electrons in your outermost shell increases. So you go group 1 has 1 valence electron, group 2 has 2 valence electrons, group 3 has 3 valence electrons, and so on. So the number of outer shell electrons will increase. Okay, the metallic character will decrease because on the left is more metallic, on the right is less metallic. The group number increases, so the answer is C. Next, some properties of element E are listed. So it has a high density, high melting point, so very likely it is a transition metal. Okay, or it can also be aluminum. So basically we know that it is likely to be a metal. Okay, so it has high density, high melting point, so it is very likely to be a transition metal. Okay, and therefore transition metal here, these three are metals, but only iron is a transition metal, so the answer is C. Okay, aluminium has a low density, lithium has also a relatively low density. Okay, and also it has a lower melting point compared to other metals. Okay, so the answer is C for 23. Moving on to 24, we have lithium, sodium, and potassium. They are elements in group 1 of the periodic table. Chlorine, bromine, and iodine are group 7 of the periodic table, which will identify the least dense of these elements in the group. So we know that as we go down the group 1, it becomes more dense, right? So in other words, potassium is the densest, so we have this. Okay, same thing, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. As we go down the periodic table, it becomes more dense. So iodine is the densest, so the answer is D. Oh, sorry, least dense. So D is the densest. So you want the least dense. Chlorine is the least dense, and lithium. So the answer is A. Okay, moving on to 25. So you have reactions of metals P, Q, and R are shown. What is the order of reactivity of the metals? So those that can react with water and acid are reactive metals. The more vigorous the reaction, the more reactive it is. So here we know that P is the least reactive because there's no reaction. So the answer is either A or B. Next, let's take a look. All of these are vigorous, so nothing to compare. So let's take a look at this. I know that R is vigorous, so R is the most reactive, followed by Q, then S, very slow. So I know very likely the answer is A. Then next, reduction of the metal oxide with carbon. The less reactive it is, the more readily this reaction occurs. So P being the least reactive will undergo reduction, followed by S, which is also the next least reactive. So the answer is A. Questions 26 is basically asking you about the blast furnace. So iron is extracted from hematite in the blast furnace at temperatures of about 1550 degrees Celsius, which equation shows the main reaction that increases the temperature of the furnace. So the main reaction that increases the temperature of furnace is basically your burning of the coke, okay? So this is an exothermic reaction that produces heat. So the answer is B. Next, 27, which diagram represents the arrangement of an alloy? So an alloy is a mixture of metals. So this is a pure substance, only one. This is also a pure substance and it's a liquid. Okay, this is also a pure compound. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 3 molecules. So this is a compound. This is an alloy. You see different type of atoms, okay, inside a neatly arranged metal. So D is an alloy. 28, which uses of metals are correct? So this one is basically just memory work, what they are used for. So for aluminium, they can be used for aircraft bodies. They can also be used for food containers, but they are not used for car bodies and chemical plants. It's not strong enough. Stainless steel is very strong, okay, but it's also very expensive. So we usually use it for small stuffs like cutlery. So the answer for 28 is D. Okay, so moving on to the next question, 29. Which role identifies a substance present in clean air and a substance that is a pollutant in air? So in clean air, we do not have oxides of nitrogen. We have carbon dioxide. We do not have this. We have this. So B or D is correct. No pollutants. Next, now let's look at sulfur dioxide. Yes, sulfur dioxide is a pollutant. Argon is also found naturally, so it's not a pollutant. So the answer is B. Next, which property of sulfur dioxide explains why it can be used as a food preservative? So this one is basically just memory work. The reason why it is used as a food preservative is because it can kill bacteria. Okay, moving on to question 31. So for question 31, fertilizers are used to provide 3 elements needed for plant growth, and the 3 elements are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So which 2 compounds would give a fertilizer containing all these 3 elements? So let's look for 2 compounds that contains N, P, and K. So here there's N, there's no P, there's no K, so no. There's N, there's P, there's no K, so B is out. There is K, there's N, but there's no P for C, so it's also out. For D, there's K, N, as well as P, so therefore the answer is D. Question 32, compound J is an unsaturated carboxylic acid. So unsaturated means it contains CC double bond. Carboxylic acid, it means it has COOH functional group. Okay, so it will have CC double bond. Okay, it will also have C double bond O. It will also have an OH. So the answer is A. Okay, so all these bonds are present in an unsaturated carboxylic acid. Next, 33, question 33. Petroleum is separated into useful fractions by fractional distillation. What fraction is used as a fuel for jet aeroplanes? So basically, this one is just memory work. So the use for jet fuel is basically the kerosene or paraffin. Okay. Next, 34. What are the products when limestone is heated strongly? So when limestone, which is calcium carbonate, is heated strongly, you'll get calcium oxide as well as carbon dioxide. So it's calcium oxide and carbon dioxide, which is C. 35. Ethene reacts with substance X to form ethanol. So what is X? X is basically steam. So this is just memory work. Okay, ethene C2H4 plus H2O. You'll form C2H6O, or you can write it as CH3CH2OH, which is ethanol. Okay, and this is basically steam. Okay. Next, 36. What is the equation for the complete combustion of methane? So methane is CH4. Okay, so this is out, D is out already. So you have CH4 plus O2, you form CO2 and H2O. So for complete combustion, you form carbon dioxide and water. So carbon monoxide is out, so you have B and D being out. So let's check A as well as C, whether the reaction is well balanced. So now we have one carbon here for A, one carbon here on the right hand side, correct? 4 hydrogens here. 8 oxygens here, there are 2 plus 2, only 4. So A is wrong because the oxygen is not balanced. Let's move on to C. So 1 carbon on the reactant side, 1 carbon on the product side, correct? 4 hydrogens on the reactant side, 4 hydrogens on the product side, correct? 4 oxygens on the reactant side, 2 plus 2, which is 4 oxygen on the product side, correct? So the answer is C, because not only do you have the correct reactants and products, but you also have a balanced equation. So 36C is the answer. Next, going on to question 37, alkenes can be produced by cracking large hydrocarbons to form smaller hydrocarbon molecules. So which equation represents possible reactions when tetradecane is cracked? So for this type of reaction, what you need to check is whether the reaction is balanced, right? And whether the product is a possible one. So let's look at this. This is C14H30. So let's check how many carbons there are. 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 5 is 14. So the carbon is balanced. Next, you have 6 plus 6 is 12, 12 plus 8 is 20, 20 plus 10 is 30. So the hydrogen is also balanced, okay? So 1 is correct, okay? So 1 is correct. Let's look at 2. So 14 carbon again, let's check. I have 2 plus 3, which is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 5 is 14. Next, let's try the hydrogens. So 2 plus 4 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12, 12 plus 8 is 20, then I have 30, so this is also correct. Moving on to 3, so I have 14 carbons, so I have 2 here, 3, 4, 12, 12 plus 2 is 14, so I have 14 carbons here at the product side, which is correct. Next, 30 hydrogens on the reactant side. Let's check the number of hydrogens. 6, 4, 24, 24 plus 6 is 30. So it is balanced. Let's check 4. So I have 14 here. So let's check 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 9 is 14. So hydrogen, carbon is balanced. Let's check hydrogens. So it's 6 plus 8, it's 14. 14 plus 18 is 32, which is not equals to 30. So this is not balanced. So this reaction is not correct. So the equations which are possible reactions are basically 1, 2, and 3. So the answer is C. Okay, moving on to question 38. The products formed by burning substance J are passed through the apparatus. So what is substance J? So let's look at this. What this does is basically you're cooling it. So basically what it does is it converts the steam. So it cools the steam, condenses it to form water. So we know that water is being produced when J is burnt. Next, we have lime water. Once you see lime water, you think of carbon dioxide. So when is carbon dioxide formed? Well, how do we know that there's carbon dioxide formed? Well, when there's white precipitate observed in lime water, it means that there's carbon dioxide. So here you see white precipitate formed in lime water, so there's also carbon dioxide. So in other words, when J is burned, you have water and carbon dioxide being produced. Okay, so when carbon monoxide is burnt, you only form carbon dioxide. There's no water, so J is not carbon monoxide. When ethanol is burned, CH3, CH2OH, okay, you will get both carbon dioxide and water. Okay. Okay, so you have carbon dioxide and water being produced. So J is likely to be ethanol. When you burn hydrogen, H2 plus O2, okay, what you get is water. You will not get any carbon dioxide. So hydrogen is out. Similarly, if you burn sulfur, you get sulfur dioxide. So also not correct. So the answer for 38 is B. Moving on to 39, which statement about ethanoic acids are correct? So aqueous ethanoic acid reacts with magnesium to form magnesium ethanoate. Yes, it is correct. So you have acid react with metal to form salt and hydrogen. So this is correct. Carbon dioxide is formed when aqueous ethanoic acid reacts with carbonate. Yes, ethanoic acid is an acid, so the acid properties or the acid reaction applies to ethanoic acid. So ethanoic acid, like all acids, will react with carbonate to form carbon dioxide, so this is correct. Hydrogen is formed when ethanoic acid reacts with sodium hydroxide. No. So when you have acid plus sodium hydroxide, which is a base, you form salt and water, not hydrogen. So 3 is wrong. Ethanoic acid turns red litmus paper blue. No. Ethanoic acid is acidic. Being acidic, it has a low pH, so it will turn blue litmus paper red, not the other way around. Okay, so the answer will be 1 and 2, which is A. Alright, let's move on to the last question. Which statement about polymerization is correct? So in polymerization, basically the small molecules, okay, which are called monomers, join together to form larger molecules. So small monomer molecules join to form large polymer molecules. So the correct answer is C.